very much. Great to be here. What is it about, like, whenever I walk into a room, abortion just suddenly is the topic? I don't know what I did. Anyway, sorry I kind of got that all off track. Thank you, Amy, and to the American Constitution Society. It's great to be here. I am the, #1 fan of Caroline Fredrickson, so I am so grateful to get to be here with her. Will you give it up for her? She does an incredible job and is... And it's just great to be with a lot of smart people who've devoted their lives to fighting for justice. As Amy said, I grew up in Texas, and my folks were just constantly fighting with everybody and all the powers that be, and every movement that came through town, we jumped on it. And my dad still is, a labor and civil rights attorney, everything from defending conscientious objectors in the Vietnam War to bringing lawsuits to create single-member districts in the state of Texas so we could finally diversify the elected officials in that state. Still got a lot of work to do. But, when in doubt, my dad's solution to life's injustice was just bring a lawsuit, and which he did regularly and with enthusiasm. So my respect for creative troublemaking attorneys runs very deep. And that includes, so give it up for yourselves for doing that, because I think it's awesome. And we do a little bit of that at Planned Parenthood. Today, actually, it's interesting. Planned Parenthood is in court throughout the country, as you know, on several reproductive health issues. In fact, in this last year, we have filed 17 lawsuits, brand new lawsuits. Okay, and to put that in context, the normal year, we have filed 3 lawsuits. So it's obviously not a normal year. And so actually I just wanted to lift up our litigation team, which is phenomenal. If any of you have had the chance to work with them. And I think a couple of our staff are actually here today, Davida Silverman and Kashif Syed. So thank you for their great work. And I don't know who all is sponsoring this, but I just felt like I had to say there are also a couple of we have a ton of amazing pro bono counsel around the country because we couldn't do it alone. And so I definitely want to shout out Arnold and Porter and Wilmer Hale, who are firms that have taken on phenomenal amounts of work for us in the past 6 months. So thank you to both of those amazing firms. And I guess I would say in my time at Planned Parenthood, we are sort of relearning the hard way. In a way, something was mentioned in this last panel, is that litigation is an incredibly important tool that we have to protecting fundamental rights. But if we actually want to win for the folks who are counting on us, we can't lean on the law alone. And we just have to constantly be organizing and agitating and building our movement, because really, you only get the justice that you fight for. And so... taking this back, we actually are about to celebrate our 100th anniversary at Planned Parenthood, which is sort of phenomenal. But I like it. It seemed appropriate here today because 100 years ago, we were founded when Margaret Sanger and her sister Ethel and a volunteer named Fania Mendel opened up the first birth control storefront in Brooklyn, New York, where for 10 cents a piece, a woman could get a pamphlet about how to prevent an unintended pregnancy. And from day one, we have the pictures from those days. Women were lined up down the block, pushing baby strollers and with babies in their arms, desperate to figure out how to prevent an unintended pregnancy. Now, of course, it was 100% illegal to be giving out that information. And so 10 days into this venture, an undercover cop posing as a mother busted Margaret, threw her in jail, where she promptly taught all of her fellow inmates about birth control, and a movement was born. So challenging the law even through civil disobedience is literally Planned Parenthood's beginning. And it actually is kind of funny that we're here this week, because it was Estelle Griswold, who worked at Planned Parenthood in New Haven, who practically begged the police to arrest her for giving out birth control, which she was doing illegally. And the police complied, arrested her, and of course that led to the Griswold versus Connecticut decision that in 1965 made it legal for married couples to have sex and use birth control. So a lot of you probably have taken advantage of that important right. We just celebrated the anniversary of Griswold this week, 51 years that married couples could have sex and use birth control. So wow, that's progress. But anyway, I think that's important about those is that those challenges to the law worked because there was a movement brewing out in the countryside as well. And in fact, across America, women at kitchen tables had been self-organizing and creating birth control leagues. It was that early organizing and then these challenges to the law that led to Planned Parenthood as we know it today, which is the largest network of reproductive health care providers and educators in the country. And while it does feel like many days it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, every single step forward for reproductive access in this country has been the result of combining, I think, really good lawyering, agitating, and organizing. And I wanted to give you one of my best examples, although it's never quite in all the same order. And that was one of the most important advances for reproductive rights and healthcare access happened just a few years ago. Some of you may remember during the fight over the Affordable Care Act, actually the biggest fight under the Affordable Care Act was not about single payer, it was not about, Medicaid expansion. It was, of course, about reproductive health care coverage. And we had thousands of activists travel to Washington, D.C. to lobby Congress, and we had students dress up in gigantic birth control packs and dance around college campuses all over the countryside, and just a lot of organizing that led to the day President Obama called Planned Parenthood to say he was about to announce that from here on out, all women, no matter where they worked, would have access to all forms of birth control for no cost under insurance plans. And that was and is revolutionary. And, the punchline to that is we are actually now at a 30-year low for unintended pregnancy in America. And so it really mattered. Yeah, that's why this work matters. And we're at a historic all-time low for teen pregnancy. So, but of course, that doesn't mean the issue is settled, right? Because you may remember that the good people who own Hobby Lobby decided that they could not abide by a law that required them to provide their employees coverage for all forms of birth control. So we knew this case was coming. We knew it was going to go to the Supreme Court, and we had about 5 months to organize. And so we had to set out a campaign plan. And our goal was to make sure that forevermore in America, when folks heard the word Hobby Lobby, they didn't first think about crocheted toilet seat covers, but rather they thought about Hobby Lobby as the poster child for those who would deny women access to birth control. And that's actually what we did. There were all kinds of exciting Hobby Lobby art projects at their local stores where customers rearranged the wooden letters in the art section to spell IUD, and discovered all kinds of craft supplies that you can actually use to make a uterus. So win, lose, or draw, we needed to actually raise the heat, and we did, and Hobby Lobby was everywhere in the news. And today, I would say the case and the company have become synonymous with denying birth control to women, and that's just simply not popular. And so I think it was actually a really good example of using good lawyering, creative organizing, and a full-blown communications effort, which are all the ingredients of a good strategy, and one that is continuing on today. And we have to do all of that as well with abortion rights, because as you know, some folks thought that we actually settled the matter of access to legal abortion in this country with the Roe versus Wade decision, but we are painfully experiencing across the country in state after state, there is absolutely no such thing as settled law. This may be something that you all talk about, but women across the country are certainly learning that a right doesn't mean anything if you don't have an ability to access it. So unfortunately, one of the places where this is most poignantly true is my home state of Texas. So politicians in that state have passed so many bad laws against women that they really literally have created a public health care crisis in the state of Texas. I'm not going to, I guess we could applaud for that, but in any case, I hope that's we're going to keep going. But literally 82 health centers closed in the state of Texas that provided women's health care. Thousands of women who were accessing affordable family planning, basic checkups, cancer screenings, no longer have the provider in their local neighborhood. And then, of course, the legislature introduced the most extreme, or I should say some of the most extreme restrictions on abortion access in the country. And frankly, the state went crazy. It erupted. And you may have seen some of the coverage, but people came and packed the Capitol in Austin, Texas, day after day, staying till 2 or 3 in the morning just to have the opportunity to testify against this legislation. And then my good friend, State Senator Wendy Davis, took the floor of the Texas Senate for her historic 13-hour filibuster. And And it was like something I've never seen before. I mean, there was more than 100,000 people that were literally live streaming every moment, watching all around the world. The Capitol was completely packed. There were lines snaked up 2 and 3 floors up the rotunda. Every overflow room was filled to capacity. No one was leaving. And then around 10 p.m., Barack Obama, his own self, tweeted to a cool 50 million followers, "There's something special going on in Austin tonight." And he was right. Having so many people in the state capitol was such an alarming sight to the lieutenant governor that he called us the unruly mob. Although, in other parts of the world, I think they call that participatory democracy. But I think it is an important lesson because we did use every tool there. And of course, we did lose the fight in the state legislature. We didn't have the votes. We did force them to take a special session, and we made it national news. And the story doesn't completely end there because even though the goal of the governor and the legislature was to shut down Planned Parenthood and to shut down legal abortion access in the state of Texas, in the past 18 months, we have cut the ribbon on 3 brand new health centers in Dallas, in Fort Worth, and San Antonio, where they are providing safe and legal abortion to the women of Texas. So, boom. Now, the other next chapter, as you probably know, is the Texas law is challenged and has been challenged at the Supreme Court by my good friends at the Center for Reproductive Rights. And I had the incredible honor of sitting for the oral arguments and listening. And those of us who were there saw something unprecedented, which is, despite some of the comments in the earlier panel, it was a case about abortion where we actually had 3 women on the Supreme Court to hear that case. And in ways that are deeper than any words I could ever express, Justices Sotomayor and Kagan and Ginsburg brought the reality of women's lived experience into the Supreme Court in a way that has never happened in our history. And it was incredibly empowering, and I will never forget it. So I think it's another example of where organizing and litigating and the sheer importance of elections and who gets to appoint our judiciary all come together. Now, just over the border, and this will be my last dire example, we are dealing with the state of Louisiana, where it is really hard to access abortion as well. And in fact, we've been following the trends, and as things get bad in Texas, women go to Louisiana, and things get bad in Louisiana, and women go to Texas. But it's essentially, it's a really tough place. We've got a mandatory waiting period in Louisiana. This year, they expanded it to 72 hours. They have mandatory ultrasounds, and we have a ban on one of the safest abortion procedures. And the governor of the state of Louisiana just signed a bill that prevents abortion providers from also providing birth control or cancer screenings for Medicaid patients. Now, that's what you call putting women's health first. So we will be litigating probably for the rest of our lives in the state of Louisiana. But while that is all going on, I just want to tell you one other sort of side story to this, and that was in New Orleans, the local bishop of the Catholic Church there declared that any contractor who helped Planned Parenthood build a new health center would never work for the Catholic Church again. And they did successfully run off our original building contractors in New Orleans. And so it took us a while, but it was pretty awesome to be back in Louisiana, in New Orleans, to open our official brand new health center 2 weeks ago. But here's the coolest thing about this story. Not only is it smack dab in the middle of town and right on the bus line and incredibly beautiful, we got to celebrate the opening with the women and minority-owned businesses who built that center. And that I really have to say thank you to all of them. So, which again, is just all to say, we got to be in the courtrooms and we got to be in the streets. And when we are, we not only change law, we change culture, we change attitudes, we change opportunities. And I hope we push the moral arc of the universe just that much closer towards justice. I, for one, it sounds insane, but I'm incredibly optimistic. because I really think this next generation is engaged and ready to change the world, and I see it every day at Planned Parenthood. This next generation, there are litigators, our doctors, our educators, our activists, and in this last year when we have been under assault in particular ways, more than 500,000 new supporters have joined Planned Parenthood, and they're ready to change the world with us. And one of them wrote in after the Colorado Springs shootings and tragedy. She said, "I'm going back to nursing school to get my license so I can come work for Planned Parenthood. I'm tired of standing on the sidelines. I want to be on the front lines of women's health." So I close with that to say thank you to all of you, to the ACS, for never, ever sitting on the sidelines. Thanks for using your smarts and your passion to fight for justice. Together, we're building the world we believe in. Thank you very much. Thank you.